Hey, welcome back, folks. Great to see you on this Friday. Got an update for you on what's shaping up to be a pretty active into the month and start of February as we're watching a signal for a pretty potent, maybe a couple potent storm systems to really ride across much of the country here not long from now. And before we get there, we're going to have other shots for snow for some folks here as we go through about the next 5 or 7 days. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. And if you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and hit that bell for the latest notifications. That'll help you stay up to date with this very active start to 2025 we've seen, and that could be a precursor for what's to come through the rest of the year. So always good to stay up to date, and of course, comment, let me know where you're watching from and what you're seeing out where you are at. All right, folks, with that said, let's go and dive right on into the data because we do have some stuff to discuss today. And what's looping next to me, this is the latest run of our European ensembles showing the chance of where we could see snow over the next 10 days. And you can kind of see a couple little storm signals, but at the very end of this loop, you'll kind of see a big explosion right here in the middle part of the country and up into the northeast and even parts of the mid-Atlantic. That's the bigger storm system that we could be running into by the time we get really, again, right to the end of January and kind of flipping the calendar into February. We're definitely going to discuss that and many other things in today's video. Now, before we get to what's to come, let's talk a little bit about what's happening right now. Taking a look at satellite imagery, nothing too crazy ongoing at this moment. However, we do have a couple areas to watch. And I just realized I forgot to pull up my little drawing utensil. So give me 1 second while that loads. Here we go. All right. So we are watching right into this area of the central part of the country. We do have some snow showers working on through with that little piece of energy. Also hard to see, but you'll see a little bit of kind of some blow up of clouds here over the Tennessee area and even into portions of Kentucky. Those are some light snow showers as well that we're watching that could bring some very brief and light accumulations. Not a big deal. But definitely something to note. Now, the bigger deal is kind of what's happening back in here. A piece of energy is diving southward. You can really kind of see it up here more so. And what's going to happen as that works into the lower 48 is a little piece of it is going to kind of break off and follow down into California. And we're going to get what we call a Baja low or a Southwest low or whatever you want to call it. Either way, it's an upper level piece of energy that's going to get stuck around California and luckily help to bring some relief for the wildfires, probably. And then also potentially create a big storm in that 7 to 10 day time frame. So that piece of energy is going to be the bigger, I think, kind of talking point throughout the next couple of days. Now, looking at radar, matches up with satellite pretty well. We do have those snow showers up into the northern section of the country, like we talked about, into the Dakotas, up through Montana, even Idaho probably seeing some light snow showers, and then into the southeast, also seeing a little bit of snow in and around Nashville, Bowling Green this morning into Cookeville. Maybe even areas like Knoxville and the Tri-Cities of Tennessee could see some light snow showers throughout the morning and into this afternoon. Definitely let me know if you see any of that falling. And same story up into the mountains of West Virginia, into portions of western Maryland, up into the DMV, seeing some very light flurries, and then lake effect snow bringing slightly higher end snowfall here. By the way, speaking of lake effect, Lake Erie is about shut off, just about frozen over now. So we've been talking a ton about lake effect recently. Excuse me, going to be a little bit less of a prominent subject for much of the winter to come here, at least into portions of those usual Lake Erie spots that get the big snow. Now, the other lake's not quite fully frozen yet, especially the big ones, obviously going to have longer to go. But Ontario and Erie definitely getting colder and colder. And all this Arctic air we've been seeing definitely helping to kind of further that process along. All right, so let's talk about the setup here in the upper levels of the atmosphere just through the near term, and then we'll kind of talk about the medium term and long term separately. But like I said, let me back up the map just a little bit for you. We'll stop it right here. This is this afternoon. Here's that upper level piece of energy I was telling you about. And we also have some energy down south. That's what's bringing some light snow showers in those areas of the east that we mentioned. But more importantly, watch what happens with this area up into Canada. It's going to kind of split into two here, and you'll kind of see how that could affect the forecast. So this is into tomorrow morning and afternoon. Notice now two pieces of energy, one up into Minnesota and into southern Canada. That's going to bring some snow to the Great Lakes, into the Midwest. And then that other area of energy breaks off and moves out down towards California. So they kind of separate just in time for Valentine's Day, I guess. So not the greatest time for these pieces of energy, but they could reunite eventually, or at least with new pieces of energy. We will see. Like the little Valentine's joke. Yeah, I just came up with that one on the spot. So we'll move it ahead further into time. time into this weekend. Here we go, Sunday afternoon. And this area of energy over California, it's a pretty potent one, folks. Going to definitely increase the chance of some showers and snow showers into Southern California. Again, it's going to bring this air off the Pacific, kind of in that counterclockwise motion, and help to advect some of that moisture inland and hopefully help with those wildfires. Now, the caveat here is at certain points, this could also increase the winds, which you don't want to see, but it's also going to help increase those humidity values and should, overall help at least a little bit, I think, here with the efforts out that way. All right, so let's go ahead and time all this out for you and start out west with this kind of new piece of energy that we just discussed. And then we'll look at the east in the near term. Then we'll move to the medium term, and then we'll end with the long term and kind of really break down that big storm potential towards the end of the month. All right, here we go. So we'll kind of keep on going. This is this afternoon. Not a whole lot, but you'll see this piece of energy bringing some snow into the mountains of the northern Rockies through Montana, Idaho, Wyoming. Not a big snowstorm, but definitely enough to be noticed and kind of help out those ski resorts for sure. We'll keep it moving ahead, and then eventually we got some pretty good snow showers tomorrow afternoon from Salt Lake City into central Nevada back towards the Denver area. Could see some snow, and into the mountains of northern Colorado specifically. Obviously the only mountains in northern Colorado are into northwestern Colorado, but either way, that area definitely going to get some good snow out of it, and it'll be relatively elevation dependent per usual. The higher elevation is going to see more than those middle and lower elevations like we normally see out west. Now, here's when things get more exciting for our folks in LA. This is Sunday afternoon, and you can see that rain beginning to kind of unfold here back out towards the Los Angeles area. Really just much of Southern California here could see some of that snow, or some of that rain rather, and then the Sierra Nevada is seeing some of that snow for Sunday afternoon as well. And the good news also is right into here, I think, is when it gets even better. This is the overnight of Sunday into Monday. Very favorable position here for this low pressure system, going to really bring some of that Pacific moisture around it and hopefully kind of up those rainfall chances into Southern California. And obviously that's what we want. Either way, if it's not raining, it'll bring up the humidity, which will help just kind of fight the fires naturally a little bit as we go into that overnight of Sunday and into Monday. Now, what about the east in the near term? Well, no big storm systems here either. However, we are going to be dealing with these little clipper systems. Now, we've got a ton of energy bottled up into Canada here, and it's really just kind of the outer edge of this energy that's slowly kind of pivoting around portions of the Midwest and even into the Northeast. You see Minnesota up through Wisconsin, Michigan. This is overnight tonight into tomorrow. By the way, again, the time is above my head, so you can always see there. See, it says 12 a.m. January 25th. Well, that's 12 a.m. January 25th, at least East Coast time. So, subtract an hour or two. But with the weather, it changes anyway. So you'll be in the right range either way. So that goes into overnight tonight. We'll get into tomorrow morning, Saturday, a nice little band of snow potentially up into Michigan, back down through maybe portions of Ohio, at least northern Ohio, northern Indiana. And it's just little shortwave after shortwave. So we've got one little piece here, another piece behind it. So just expect these little areas of snow to rotate on through, not causing major travel impacts or disruptions, but enough to be noticed. Again, this is Saturday afternoon you're looking at here. And eventually, all that gets into the interior Northeast, the Catskills, Adirondacks, back into Erie, Buffalo, could get some snowfall out of this, and then up into Quebec, Ontario, going to see some snow. Some of the higher end snowfall chances in eastern Canada we've seen so far this winter, actually, and then up into Maine, and it's just little piece of energy, little piece of energy. Now, another thing to note, this is Sunday afternoon. This is something I've been watching for a couple days. Now, we've got still very cold air in place at this time, so anything above really, let me redraw it a little bit. We'll say, let me put it in blue to explain it even better. Anything kind of above this blue line or north of that has an atmospheric profile that is favorable of seeing some snowfall. And what you'll notice to the south is a little bit of energy, not a lot, but just a little bit of energy kind of riding along that boundary, and they could overlap just a little bit right into this region. Now, it would not be big, it would not be anything crazy, but you can see a little bit of sleet, maybe some snow. This would be Sunday afternoon and evening, and you can kind of see that popping up just a little bit in central Tennessee. Hard to see, I know, but overnight Sunday, a little bit of blue down here south of Nashville on this model. Some other models have been hinting at it a little bit into the mountains of North Carolina, maybe up into northern half of North Carolina. Could get some very light snow or sleet, or maybe even just a little bit of light rain, especially south of there, going to be rain. Not a big deal, not a big storm, but something to note as we go into the weekend. Now, what about snowfall totals in here? This is also going to be pretty important to your forecast, and let's take a look at it. So here we go. This is up into the northern tier of the country. You can see up through northern Minnesota, into portions of Wisconsin, Michigan, back into Canada, into portions of New York, and even into Pennsylvania. Going to have the highest chance of seeing snow. This is over the next 72 hours. I think the UP of Michigan could get a good 3 to 5 inches. The western shores of Michigan, a good 3 to 5, especially the northern half of the western shores. I get the idea. Anybody just in this range is going to have the chance at some light to moderate accumulations. Nothing we haven't seen here before, but the bigger total is going to be up into Canada. Check this out. Up here, just north of Michigan, into portions of Canada, kind of north of Sault Ste. Marie, going to see the potential for more than a foot of snow out of this setup as that energy really kind of parks over this area of Canada, and then up into portions of northern Ontario. Kind of going to have those higher chances of snowfall as well. So definitely a snowy looking pattern for sure as we continue ahead and get into this near time frame. Now, let's talk about the medium range a little bit, and it's going to be more of the same, I think. So this is Monday afternoon, kind of where we left off earlier. A big low pressure continues to spin off into California, and then the other story, and let me redraw it so you can see it a little bit easier. Then the other story is going to be what's happening up north. I said all that snow up into Canada. Well, it's all happening due to this big kind of upper level trough, a very sharp temperature gradient in here, creating these little pieces of energy rotating around very cold air. Well, it's going to dive south just a little bit by early next week. And you can see, here we go. This is a Tuesday morning, one little piece of energy rotating through portions of New England. By that time frame, you go a little bit further ahead into time, more little pieces of energy. And then by the time we get to about Wednesday, I think a pretty good chunk of this is going to kind of break off, or not break off, but really just slide south a little bit. And this is once again going to increase snowfall chances. In fact, I think we could get a pretty potent little clipper out of this by the time we get to early next week. And you'll also notice that low pressure down near California slowly scooting east, and it's the combination of this piece of energy and our California piece of energy that could potentially lead to a bigger storm system right at the end of the month. That's what we're going to talk about right after we kind of bring you on through the more medium range here. All right, so let's show it to you. Again, I don't think it's going to be a major winter storm, but we'll keep on moving ahead where we left off. And you notice all that snow up into Canada. One little kind of glancing blow, I think, Monday into Tuesday, there through New England, even into the interior Northeast. But then the more potent piece of energy arrives by Tuesday afternoon. You'll notice this clipper system up here into Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota. It's a pretty good looking clipper. It's not, going to break any records, but this could drop some moderate snowfall totals Tuesday afternoon into evening. And then look at it get into the Northeast by Wednesday morning. This is a nice area of snow through Pennsylvania, New York, and potentially not even just the interior. New York City, New Jersey, maybe Philadelphia, Boston, Connecticut, Rhode Island. Some of these more coastal areas could try to get in on the action by Tuesday into Wednesday. You can see that here. This will be enough to drop again a couple of inches of snow at least, and then gets on out of here. So it's a clipper system, not a major nor'easter, not going to drop a foot of snow in New York City, but watching the potential for it to drop snow of some sort absolutely could be kind of something in the forecast. So we'll watch that and we'll keep you up to date. But today's Friday. That would be about Tuesday and Wednesday. So a little too soon to talk totals. And also know that the location of it could shift north a little bit. It could shift south a little bit. All that's still up for interpretation in the models, but definitely something to watch, something to keep an eye on, and gets us in range for what would be the next kind of big story here in the world of weather. And that's that storm potential at the end of the month. All right, let's break it down and let's talk about it. So what you're looking at here, same map I showed you earlier, the 500 millibar height anomaly map, kind of giving that potential here for what could set up to be a pretty good storm, and maybe in places that haven't really gotten a lot of snow yet so far this winter, could also be in the mix here. So this is the the evening of January 20, or the 30th. Sorry, I promise I know how to read dates here. So this is the evening of next Thursday, the 30th of January. It has been a long week, y'all. It's been a long month. Okay, we've been nonstop tracking weather. My brain, I'll be honest, is a little Not there all the way, but it's okay. We'll get through it. So here's the setup. We've got this piece of energy, like we've been talking about nonstop in this video, down into the desert southwest. We've also got that other kind of cold energy that is going to bring that Clipper system during the Wednesday timeframe to the northeast. So you get kind of the setup. We've got tropical energy with the moisture, and we've got cold energy with the cold air. And the question is, can they line up? Can this piece of energy catch up to the other piece of energy in time to produce winter weather? Well, that's where the models diverge, but where they agree is that this will kind of be the general setup. Here's the GFS at this time frame. Here's the Canadian, looks very similar. The European, different, but the pieces are still there on the table. The Euro AI model, a lot closer to the European there, and even the Icon model has a similar look. So you get the idea. I guess we can even look at the UK Met. Yeah, UK Met has the same thing. So they all have the general pieces on the table for the storm system. Where they differ is in the evolution of it and how it plays out. So let's go ahead and show you a couple models. We'll start with the GFS here for the kind of starting at the 30th. Again, time right above my head, so it says it right there. This is 1 p.m., January 30th. You can find a calendar, that's next Thursday afternoon. All right, so you can see that southern energy beginning to ramp up a little bit here. We've got rain beginning into the deep south of Texas, Louisiana. Not snow this time for you folks. I think you've had enough once in a lifetime events for a little while, so we'll go ahead and give you a break. But could see some snow into the mountains of New Mexico, Arizona, really through much of the Four Corners with a setup like this. And then this storm really begins to fester up. We've got pretty good snow ongoing into portions of New Mexico, back into West Texas by this time frame. This would be Friday afternoon. And then the storm gets going, pulls east into what is pretty cold air left over. And we've got some ice in the mid-Atlantic. We've got snow in the Midwest, and just kind of a messy winter storm look here into the Northeast, back out into the Great Plains, the Midwest. And then that train kind of continues and even get another area after that by the time we get into the first little bit of February. That's the GFS, not overly exciting, not overly impressive. What about the European? A little more impressive, I'd say. We've got the big storm system. It's just nuking snow here over portions of kind of western Kansas into the panhandles of Texas, Oklahoma, even parts of Colorado. Also, I will add a setup like this. This would be a nasty squall line. This could bring severe weather by next Thursday into Friday if the European were to be correct. And then this works up northbound. The storm fizzles out a little bit, includes pretty quickly, gets some snow into the Midwest, some rain into the east, and you're thinking, all right, well, that's not a big deal. And you're right, that one's not too big of a deal. But right after it, you get into the first day or two of February, and you get an even bigger, more potent storm. And this one's a lot more wintry looking into the Ohio Valley, into the Northeast, into the Midwest. So the pattern looks active right in that time frame from the end of January to the start of February. I'll even show you the Canadian model, even though my loyal viewers who have been around know that this kind of burnt us a little bit with the last storm. Although not really, we ended up getting a big storm, just a little different than the Canadian model showed, and kind of was all over the place by the end of it. But definitely a fan favorite for snow lovers. This model is, it seems. And shows the storm. Has the snow back into New Mexico, Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma, at least the panhandles of those states, and then works northbound and gets an icy, kind of snowy, wintry mess into portions of the Northeast, the Midwest, and something to note that I really want you to watch. You see this pink down here? This is some classic cold air damming, and a classic cold air damming ice storm kind of setup here. Not quite a Miller B storm, but it's in that range. It's in that ballpark. And basically, all this cold air we have now and then another little reinforcing shot by early next week is likely to get trapped down here. And if a storm system comes and overrides it, that could spell very icy trouble for somebody. And speaking of that ice, let's take a look at this. This is a chance of seeing, a relatively significant amount of ice in that time frame from the European ensembles. And notice the signal here. All the maps I just showed you, you're thinking, all right, the storm doesn't look too big, but look at the chance for ice into the mid-Atlantic, heck, all the way down into Atlanta, Greenville, Spartanburg, Charlotte, the Triad, all these cold air damming places along the I-85 corridor. It's a classic signal for ice. We'll need to watch it as we go right into that flipping the calendar into February, and then also some chances for ice into the Ohio Valley, portions of the Great Lakes. It's going to be, a relatively icy storm, I think. Now, there will be snow as well, but ice will be a concern with this big push of warm air that the storm is going to bring from the Pacific and the Gulf, combined with this cool, very dense Arctic air that we've got in place. Yeah, that could definitely spell some icy trouble. And just again, remind you, this is a very, very pretty impressive ice signal in that time frame, already running about a 40% chance in portions of Virginia and North Carolina for significant ice, and that's still 7 to 10 days away. So definitely something to note there. Also, what I just realized is you probably can't even see it that well. Maybe you can see it a little bit better here. Oops, my bad. Again, like I said, I'm tired. Snowfall chances. Same general idea here with the storm. Snowfall, I think the best chance is going to be into Colorado, New Mexico, into the Texas, Oklahoma Panhandle, even into portions of Kansas, like we talked about on the main maps. And then this gets up into the Midwest. You can see some pretty good snow chances in Iowa, into much of the Midwest. And this is an area that hasn't gotten a whole lot of snow this winter, so it'd be good for you folks. And then you can even see snow chances into the Northeast, especially the interior. But even the I-95 could run winter weather chances with this setup, and then that gets on through. And then you could see, those snowfall chances kind of remain relatively active in the east through the first bit of February. Alrighty, folks, so that's all I got for you. Sorry if this video was a little chaotic. Like I said, I'm still mentally recovering a little bit, and classes are kind of starting to get to that point where they're a little busy, and the sleep has been hard to come by, to say the least. But with that said, I appreciate it. Again, if you haven't already, go ahead, like the video, subscribe, and hit that bell for the latest notifications. With that said, y'all have a great one. Stay safe, stay warm, and I'll see you all next time.